So this event or this sign or this particular period that we're addressing here might actually be the kind of the macrocosm idea of the story of the Virgin and the serpent, and of course the fall of man, I guess.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I don't have any evidence to back it up, but it seems to indicate that the zodiac and its origins is, all based upon, the same idea of, Genesis or the fall of man or, all of these type of ideas that we read about,
Mm-hmm.
Whether you interpret them as, literal,
Mm-hmm.
or, in terms of the ancient myths, or whether you interpret them astronomically or astrologically.
So, do you know when, or if Blavatsky goes into, when this split occurred? For example, let's take this with, going from 10 to 12, for example. Do you know if she gives any kind of timeline to this, when this happened?
I don't think she lists it specifically in this passage, but I'm fairly sure that in the book that she does go into sort of time frames. I, and to be honest with you, can't recall.
Sure,
exactly.
sure.
Her work is a bit dense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to say I rely a lot more on Manly Hall for these type of things.
Yeah, because, but this is an interesting aspect, because I know that Blavatsky also, of course, dived into the area of, speaking of, in regards to the different ages being different lengths and so forth, being, taking several thousand years. We are, of course, talking about the precession of the equinox, and going from 10 to 12, and why they divided up. But I guess where we're going with this then is that we're not in this period now entering, as you said, into the age of Aquarius, but actually going into to Leo, entering into the sign of the lion.
Yeah, right. So esoterically, in a sense, we are entering into an age of the height of solar power, which means, those that worship the sun having power. And Manly Hall had this quote where he said, "The secret religions of the world will include once more the raising to initiation by the grip of the lion's paw." That kind of tells you exactly what's going on.
Yeah. This is interesting. Yeah, because again we can we can tie this back, of course, as you say, to all the Lion King story out there. I mean, that we have the return of Jesus coming back as a lion, of course, and all this stuff.
Oh, right, in that movie, right, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
exactly.
Chronicles of Narnia, I think it's called.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Returning as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, of course, and we have even the UK in regards to that, having the lion on their insignia. I mean, it might be a hint there that, they at least know what actually is going on.
Oh, yeah, and you'll find this in a lot of places that, you may not even expect. For instance, Rastafarian.
Yeah.
A religion. You
Yeah.
know, they make great use of the lion symbol.
Sure. That's the, we haven't even have what's the Bob Marley song called? The Lion of Zion, right?
That's right.
Yeah. That's interesting stuff. So okay, we have the lion going into that. What do you think that this would kind of mean? Could we tie more into this? I know, for example, that Graham Hancock speaks a lot about this time going back. What is it, 10 to 10,500 BC, in regards to the pyramid builders, or the ancient navigators, whatever you want to call them, actually set up and built the Sphinx and stuff like this. Do you think that there could be a connection here, so to speak, with these guys' research and with this evidence that you're pointing to here?
Well, it's certainly related. I don't claim to know if it's, definitely linked, but, you'd have to think that, there is some connection on some level.
Mm.
And again, this probably, relates back to, this idea that, Jay Coetzee talks about in synchromysticism, where, there's these seeming coincidences that, seem to be more relevant than they at first would appear.
Yeah. So maybe there could be hints here. I mean, do you think that we could tie in even the phase on Mars? I know that I don't know if it's was it Richard Hoagland who did kind of a special kind of treatment on that image, which actually turned out to look a lot like a lion's head. Do you remember that image?
I do think I have seen that. I know for my own research, I've really relied more on the work of Wayne Herschel, who I had on the program before.
Sure.
Who talks quite a bit about this.
I mean, we could go into the area, I guess, of 2012 here. This is always an interesting, aspect to hear people's interpretation of that event. I mean, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of, ideas, of course, are out there in regards to what it means and so forth. What have you been able to pick up? What's your sense or what's your feeling on this?
Yeah, this is a topic I talk about quite a bit. 2012, the New Age, eschatology, and all the maelstrom that's surrounding these ideas. Well, in relation to, what we were just talking about with the esoteric astrology, I think, if that has any meaning that we're going into Leo, then I think that would correspond very much with the, type of surveillance society that we seem to be going into at the moment that, you talk about a great deal on your site.
Yeah.
Which is, very worthwhile. But in terms of the whole concept, I think that people need to be aware and cautious because, there's so many people jumping on the bandwagon, right?
Yeah.
You have doomsayers, you have cult leaders, you have all sorts of people who would consider themselves New Agers. Some of these people are legitimate, some of them have an agenda, and some of them are just trying to make money. And it's important, I think, that people be aware that there are those categories out there. And I know it sounds ridiculous to say that, right? But I guarantee you when you talk with people, they're going to bring up someone who, you might say, well, this, is ridiculous. This guy's just trying to make money. This research is, meaningless or whatever. But, not everyone is discriminating. And these people, are good salesmen. They're good at what they do.
Sure.
So I think, you have to be cautious. If somebody's selling something, especially if it's more than just a book, I think you really have to be, aware of what they're talking about and where it comes from. And I think, if you look at the work of like the Collins brothers, their ascendancy of the scientific dictatorship, that'll give you a very good history of all of these ideas that are wrapped up in these things.
Yeah. So, do you think that they could be jumping on this bandwagon now? Even if we're talking about more sinister forces that might be behind this creation, I guess, of the New Age or whatever, in the sense that they're trying to jump on the bandwagon that this is a big event, something huge is going to happen. Either we could take it into the area of tremendous earth changes, upheavals in regards to global warming, or we could as you said, we can take it into the more surveillance type deal with even the shipping of people and so forth, because it seems like 2012 is going more and more mainstream by the day. Basically, a lot of documentaries out there, even Discovery Channel and National Geographic are picking up on this. And so, I mean, do you think that we will see a rise in this particular area, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things I think about a lot in terms of this topic is, like you mentioned, it going so mainstream. And I had a little article the other day about this program I heard on the radio called Studio 360, and they did a segment called, it was basically, the end of the world has begun. They were out on the street, talking to people, what do you think of 2012? And, oh, it's the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
So, and they interviewed Daniel Pinchbeck, who has a lot of really good ideas that's around this whole topic, right? But he seems to be one of the, main people, who has brought this idea to the public more than most. But I like what he has to say about it in terms of the fact that, our consciousness sort of co-creates our reality. If everybody is convinced that the end of the world is coming, you better look out. But, if we are more of the idea that, this is going to be a positive change, even if it's not for everybody, maybe that was the way to sort of think about it, at least.
Yeah, I totally hear what
In
you're
a sense,
saying.
there's no reason to become, frantic in this sort of apocalyptic terror, because, is that going to stop it? You know what I mean? That seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, I totally hear what you're saying, and I totally agree. It's the, jumping on the bandwagon, and another thing we all can, just gather around and not trying to understand it in that sense. We're belonging to the group that believes in 2012 or whatever, and that's the that's the backside of all of this. I think that we are in for a tremendous possibility of actually being able to change something here. But if they are able to kind of steer this into to this direction that you're speaking of, destruction or mayhem or end of the world type scenario, I think that we have kind of totally lost the concept of what's going on here. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, I do, and I think what you're pointing to is significant, because ultimately what it sets up is an expectation in everybody's mind that something is going to happen, right? And when everyone has that expectation, it's very easy for someone or a lot of people to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but it's bound to occur.
Yeah, it is. Also another interesting idea and interesting subject here is a little bit in regards to an article that you sent me a while back, talking about Dr. Zahi Hawass, of course. The article was entitled, "Does Egypt's Indiana Jones Have a Hidden Agenda?" And this article actually elaborated on, whether or not the what's they call the Edgar Cayce Foundation, the ARE, are behind, I guess, some scholarship at least that Hawass has at this point. Do you remember this article?
Oh yeah, it was originally written by a guy who goes by the handle of Synthesis, and he has a group on the Newsvine site called Hall of Mirrors. I think it's like conspiracies.newsvine.com. And the article goes into what you talk about,